Welcome to the Candle Business Coach Podcast, a show about the craft of candle making and small business. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I'm a candle maker, mum of three, and kindness advocator. Join me as I dive into all things candles and small business and deliver advice and tips to you in episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Are you on the list to get my daily motivation emails? Every day I'll send you a message that is designed to help keep you focused on taking action toward your goals. Sign up using the link in the show notes. Hello everyone and welcome back to the podcast. Today I have a very special episode for you as we have our very first guest on the podcast. Here with me today is the beautiful Jess from Long Story Short.
Hey guys, hope you're well and excited.
we both definitely are. So Jess, as I mentioned, you're from Long Story Short, but before we dive into what that company is all about and what you do with your business, I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Jess. I'm one half of Long Story Short. I'm mum to two little girls. One's a little baby who might wake up soon. I guess I'm the face of my business, but I'm not the most important person. But being the face, I guess I sort of embody Long Story Short, so I'm pretty excited to talk about it.
Amazing. So when did your experience with candles and candle making begin?
Yeah, so how long ago? Probably about almost a decade ago now, my husband and I made the decision for him to go back to uni, which meant that I was supporting him financially, and we moved back to my mum's place. And I guess in a way I wanted to make some extra money on the side, but I don't think that was really my primary goal. I just like projects and I like keeping busy, and I don't really watch much TV. So for me, getting busy and creating something, and I just started making candles, and sort of one thing led to another, and I started this little business, and it was really fun, and I continued doing that for probably 3 or 4 years after that, even after I started Long Story Short. But then it got to the point sort of something had to give, and I was getting so much satisfaction out of Long Story Short. And I managed to pass the business on to another local girl. So it's still living and going strong.
Amazing. That's so good to know.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you faced when you first started either your candle business or Long Story Short?
Yeah, so many challenges. Look, when I first started making candles, the small business community, the online community, e-commerce community, it was completely different. There was no such thing as a business like Long Story Short. So while there were printers and there were designers, it just wasn't as accessible and wasn't as easy, I suppose. And I do remember going out and trying to get quotes for labels and design, and it was just really difficult. So amongst all the other challenges of starting a business, and there's a lot, I definitely think I remember seeing on a Facebook group once this girl who had amazing labels. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I do that? How do I achieve that? And that's sort of what started my search. But that was definitely a really big challenge, I think, just trying to be professional but knowing how to do that, because the resources just weren't there in those days.
The landscape's definitely changed even in the last couple of years with the rise of social media and people being more open with sharing where they get their supplies from. I think has given us
and you know what? My husband and I talk about that a lot, because we think one of the most incredible things is that we get tagged and we get mentioned and we get spoken about so often. And we're like, how cool is this? Because normally you wouldn't really want to share your suppliers. That would be this secret that you don't want people to talk about. But I think Long Story Short is part of this movement where people actually really want to, they're proud. They're proud of using another small business and another, Australian local business run by women. So they're sort of more than happy to share and talk about where they get their labels and branding from, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely am in that category as well. I've used your products and services since I started my business, and it's been just an incredible experience from the very first emails sent, knowing that
it's good to know.
Yeah, no, definitely, because you have such a love and passion for your own business, and you want to produce the best quality labels that you can, and you want to have an experience that extends to the customer when they light your candle or open up the parcel and they get it delivered. So to know that there is an organisation that is, long story short, that provides that end-to-end service with incredible customer service and impeccable quality of products. And yeah, I love you guys, and I think it's just if someone's considering wanting to have their labels outsourced, which I'm in that camp, I definitely would recommend that. You're the only company that I recommend, and I certainly am proud to say that I have purchased and had my labels designed by yourself and the team.
Love that. Thank you.
So when you first started, what do you wish you first knew? Like, this is specific for candle makers, but
yeah.
is there anything that you can sort of think of that, what I know now, if only I'd applied that back then?
I thought about this a lot, and to be honest, while both making candles and the long story short journey, there was a lot of mistakes that we made and things that we learnt along the way, and I actually wouldn't change it, and I wouldn't change it for two reasons. Number one, I think it really helped me stay unique and sort of forge my own path, and it didn't cloud my creativity and thinking, this is what I need to do, this is what others do, this is how I need to do it. I guess I started with nothing and was able to build that knowledge, I guess. Secondly, while it was challenging, I think every mistake, every error, every whatever that we've sort of made, we've really learnt from it and been able to build on our, on our knowledge and on our business. And so I don't think there is anything, but in saying that, things like getting an ABN, we've actually got a short course that we sell on our website, getting an ABN, trademarking, things like that, you could really learn a lot of that and do it all in a day. Like, I've set my friends up businesses and spent half a day with them and just smashed it all out. But without knowing that, okay, you can literally just Google and get an ABN and it takes 2 seconds. Without knowing that, that can be a whole thing in itself. So I guess there are those like really early stages, but these days there is so much support, and there's courses like what we sell, and I know a lot of other businesses have courses like that. But in terms of actually running a business, I feel like a lot of things you have to figure out for yourself and what works for you, because what works for someone else won't necessarily work for you. And yeah, it keeps it interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you say like you wouldn't change anything, like you would still want to go through those mistakes and learning curves, it's just all part of the process. Like you almost wouldn't want to have it a perfect journey, because that would be boring and it wouldn't be as you wouldn't learn as much along the way. So yeah, I think that's really important. So tell us all about Long Story Short, your origin, what it's all about, and what you guys actually do.
Yeah, so this is a really big one, because I guess there are a lot of steps, and creating Long Story Short wasn't this straightforward, had this idea one day in the middle of the night, and then, the next day we had Long Story Short. Basically, when I was making candles, I met this girl, or I saw this girl being recommended on a candle group, and she had her own tiny little printer, and she was a designer, and her name was Cynthia. We started working together, and then sort of one thing led to another. We hadn't met each other, we'd worked together, and I sort of became her biggest customer, I guess. And then I was seeing a lot of other people sort of needing someone like her, but she doesn't really she's very good now, but in those days she didn't really like talking to people. She didn't have the confidence. So I said to her, how about I offer your services, I help you. There was no financial reward in it. It was just me helping her. And then that's sort of how it started. And then we started getting labels, bringing in labels from China. This was our first sort of mistake, just because the opportunity presented itself to us, and for a million reasons. Just don't go there. It was an absolute nightmare, and luckily that only lasted a few months. And then I decided to fly to Melbourne from Sydney because we obviously live in different cities, and met her for the first time, and we went and bought a printer, and a really, really big, expensive printer. And her husband's like, don't do it. And we're like, what can we, like, seriously, what can we lose? Like, let's just do it. Let's just do it. I guess we just didn't think too much about it. We just thought we had this passion. We just wanted to give it a shot, I guess. And I'm lucky that they went along with me and my crazy ideas, because if they didn't, this, all wouldn't have happened. And I guess we worked for the next, I think, almost 12 months before Long Story Short even existed. And it was all through word of mouth. It was because I was a candle maker, and other candle makers knew that I had this, added extra service, that we were doing design and print. And yeah, it was literally all word of mouth. And yeah, one thing led to another, and then we sort of thought, I think it was just before the end of the financial year. It was June, and we thought, you know what, let's start the financial year off fresh. We need a name. We don't even have a name for our business. We need a logo. We're a branding business and we don't have a logo. And so as much as I will tell you these things are really important, at the same time, sometimes it's important just to like jump in, and, you can backtrack later when you do have a bit of money coming in. So I'll talk about that a bit later. But yeah, so we sat down for, I think, 2 days straight, and we smashed it out, and we came out the other side with Long Story Short, and it's really sort of been up from there. It's been a huge journey. It's been crazy. I still think it's crazy. Cynthia and I talk all the time. We're like, how cool is it that we found ourselves here? That I went on mat leave and never had to go back to work, and she was a stay-at-home mum, and then our family members joined in on the business. So yeah, it's been a wild ride for us.
Yes. I think I remember even seeing on your Instagram a little while ago that, was it your parents or your grandparents? Your grandparents were helping to send out orders and pack orders, which I thought was just it was so lovely. And to know that there are so many customers, Australian based, that are helping to support like another Australian family. Like,
because sometimes I think, we are still a small business, but once a small business does get to a certain size, you forget that end of the day, we are still people. We are exactly like our customers. So while we are bigger, while we do, or not necessarily bigger than everyone, but, while we do have staff and, very, like we've been around for a few years, so we do have that structure, but at the same time, we are just two mums. We aren't perfect. We are just sort of trying our best every day. And yeah,
you've got the right ingredients, because you've definitely made an incredible company.
Thank you.
So say a fellow candle maker, a new candle maker is looking to have labels designed and then obviously printed. What's the process? Like how would you walk them through that?
Yeah, so look, we get asked a lot if we have an online portal like what Vistaprint have, or any of the other sort of big printing businesses out there. And we actually went down this path last year, and we paid a 50% deposit. We paid $25,000 and actually walked away from the project. Wow. Right? We didn't ask for a refund. We just walked away, because as we continued on this process, we realized that one of the key ingredients to Long Story Short is being human and having that communication. And while having that communication can sometimes make the process a little bit more confusing, we really just wanted to stick to who we are. And so I guess in saying that, the easiest thing to do is just email us, literally just email us. And you don't even have to say anything. You can just say, I want to place an order. And then we can sort of walk you through, well, what do you want? Because we obviously have a lot of services these days. We don't just do labels. We do like Shopify websites. We do copywriting. We do packaging design. So just by making contact and starting that conversation is probably the best thing you can do. But definitely have a look on our website. Kelly, one of our designers, has built us the most incredible website, and there is a lot of information there. So it can also, I guess, be quite overwhelming, but it is a good place to start. And then just, as I said, just starting the conversation for, placing an order and letting us know sort of what you're trying to achieve, and then we can give you the options, because there's always more than one option.
Yes, and I think as a new candle maker, you might not know, or they might not know what the best labels might be for their business. They might have something in mind, and then when you explain that there are different options and that there's even sample packs they can order from your website to actually feel and see the quality of the labels, it can take them in all different directions, which I love, because it's just such a creative part of the candle making process, and it's quite a fun part as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the best email address for people to get in touch?
So it's hello@longstoryshortdesign.com.au.
Perfect. So what type, this is a big question, but what type of labels do you actually have that people can order from you?
Yeah, there's heaps. So we specialize in only the really high quality premium labels. So our labels are all mainly for your products. That's not to say we don't have packaging labels, but we're probably not the cheapest in terms of packaging labels. But in terms of products labels, there's textured, there's foiled, there's mirror, there's holographic. The textured are really, I think, really special, because it took me about 3 years to find a solution for those. Like, you don't understand how many how many emails I sent and meetings I had. And a lot of the vinyl products we have didn't actually exist in the industry. Others have picked up on it now, and so it's easy to sort of take it for granted that these products exist. But a lot of them, like our textured vinyls, they're not actually product labels. They're designed, I think, for the wall, to stick on windows and walls and things like that. So what I did, I sort of tried to look outside the box a little bit, and I knew the end goal that I wanted, and then I just started testing like crazy. So we do have a lot of sort of out there options, and we do have the sample packs, which we sell for $5. But then there's also lots of options that we just haven't managed to have the time to get in there as well. So if you do go on our website and there is something specific that you want, just write in the notes, and we should have something lying around that we can include in there.
Perfect. Does the quality of labels matter?
Hugely. Yeah. So your product is, your brand when you're not in the room. So look, you obviously need a good product. That goes without saying that you want a quality product, but what's the point of having a quality product and a candle that smells absolutely incredible and that lasts a really long time if you're going to have a label that when you get a little bit of wax on it, it starts to deteriorate. So having a good quality label is absolutely imperative.
I think that's one of the not mistakes, but one of the learning curves that new candle makers can have is that they think, I'll just print on any label paper and it will be fine. But then when you compare that to the quality that Long Story Short can provide, it's apples and oranges. They're two completely different things, and the look and the feel of the labels when you've got something that's quality, that's made with quality, is just hands down the best decision.
And look, also I think people can be scared of the price, the per unit price. And if we're talking about, 70, 80, 90 cents, and to be honest, it can be double that if you want something like foiling or texture. They're really scared of the price. And I understand it is, and it can be a large upfront cost, but that dollar that you spend on your products can double the perceived value to your customer. So instead of having a candle that your customer might think is worth $15, by spending that extra dollar, you could charge $40.
Yes.
So it's a really important thing to keep in mind as well.
Yes, absolutely, because people are purchasing with their eyes, especially if it's online. They're not able to smell the candles, but they can see beautiful photos and the beautiful labels as well. Exactly. So that sort of leads me to the next question. What is branding and how important is that to get right?
Yeah, so branding is how you distinguish yourself and your product from everyone else. And it's not just the label, it's your tone of voice, it's how you communicate to your customers, it's how you package. And when I say package, I mean package the whole, like what are you trying to sell? How are you trying to make your customer feel? So branding is a really important thing to think about. Before we get lots of people email us and they say, look, I don't have a logo, but can you make me this pretty label? And we always sort of suggest, look, we can do that, but we don't want you spending $100 or $200 on labels if you haven't really thought about what your brand is, because otherwise you're going to spend that $200 and then you might want to change it after you've started selling. So having a little bit of a think about your brand and who you are and how you are different from others is really crucial, I think, before you invest anything in your brand.
Absolutely, and it's money well spent that you wouldn't necessarily at first think that it's a good investment, but as you say, like it takes it shows customers your whole story, and you want to get that right from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Is it important to get a professionally designed logo in that case?
Yes. So I'm glad you brought this up. Label design, if you want to take into your own hands, we love it. We love you getting involved. When it comes to a logo design, whether it's us designing or whether a lot of our customers might go to another designer for their logo and then come to us for the labels. Going on a tangent, but the reason for that is, so a lot of our customers, we do a lot of logo design and branding design, but we don't like to say that we specialize in brand strategy, because we try to provide more of an affordable service for our customers. So often that means that our customers come to us with a bit of a vision of what they like and we or want to be, and then we build it for them. So going back to your question, a professionally designed logo is incredibly important. First of all, because you can establish your brand. Secondly, because having the right file types is, I would say, the most important thing in terms of having professional labels designed or just printed. So much time can be wasted if you don't have that. So while a program like Canva is amazing, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more, it does have its limitations. So yeah, like in summary, and I know I've answered that in a really roundabout way, if you want to design your own labels, go for goals, but have a professional logo.
Yeah, that makes
like
sense.
Absolutely no question. Yeah. We have this discussion so many times every day, and it wastes so much time that you don't want to waste as a business owner.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be going backwards and forwards 20 times to Canva trying to work it out, when you can sort of once off pay $500. Sounds like a lot of money, but the amount of time that you can save is huge.
And that's the thing, you've got to weigh up whether you are willing to invest time, money, or your own effort. And sometimes Exactly. It's just what might seem the most expensive is actually the best long-term.
Yeah, exactly.
So why should someone choose to order their candle labels through Long Story Short rather than designing and printing their own?
Yeah, there's so many different options, and we work with every single, type of option. So if people want to design themselves and then we print, as I said before, we love that. Design can be a really personal thing. And so if you are creative, and I could never do it because I'm actually terrible with technology and these apps, and believe it or not, I wouldn't even know how to open Adobe Illustrator. But if you can do it, then absolutely do it, and then we can print. If you do need a little bit of extra help, then we do obviously have design services. You do have to keep in mind, though, that if you do want to design yourself, there are a lot of things that you're paying a designer to know. Just off the top of my head, often we're printing labels and the text will be too small or too thin, and we try and vet as much as we can. But at the end of the day, we're not going to sit there and sort of analyze design choices, because sometimes that has been done for a reason,
Yes.
So while we do really pick up as much as we can, we look at bleed, so, not having the white edges. We make sure the files are designed to the right size. But there are a lot of things that really a designer will know that you may not. In saying that, though, like, Canva is really great, and the quality it can produce is really good. So if you're inclined to do it yourself, then we really like it. We enjoy it. It's nice for us too, because we can see completely different styles. And I see stuff sometimes, I'm like, wow, we would have never done that. We would have never thought of that. Like, that's really cool. So yeah, it's nice for us to see as well.
Yeah, and it goes to show just how creative we can be. And surely when you're getting a design that's been made outside, long story short, that can inspire you for perhaps another customer who has not the same ideas, but sort of a similar thinking. You can go, well, how about we take a little bit of this element or mix in a little bit of this style and then create something completely new, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
Do you mind telling me a little bit more about Canva?
Yeah, so Canva is probably the only tool outside of the professional softwares that I would recommend. Until Canva came along, people were using apps and, phone apps, and they just weren't great. Canva, even for printing, a lot of designers will say that Canva isn't great for printing. It actually is. It does work in vectors. So basically what a vector is a file that we are able to edit, and it is a file that has good, high resolution, so enough that you can sort of it's like infinite resolution, basically. It doesn't have limitations on it. So that said, if you work with Canva correctly, and there are obviously a few limitations, there's a lot you can do with it. The limitations come when you want specialty printing, like foiling or white ink, or you want us to be able to edit it. Canva isn't always great, but look, 90% of the time, I really highly recommend it, and it's free as well. You can pay for the pro, but you don't need to. Like, if you want to get in there and just have a go at it, and you want to design your own labels, the only thing is you can design logos on Canva, but you will never own the intellectual property. Canva will. So just be mindful of that if you are starting a business, do you really want a logo that anyone else can, download and use themselves? So that's probably my only warning with Canva.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing to know. Thank you for sharing that. Now, when it comes back to just circling back to making candles, what do you think is the most important strength someone would need to be successful as a candle maker?
Yeah, I think, and this goes for any business, to be honest, do it because you love it. Don't do it for the money. I think, I don't know how many years that we sort of did our little projects for, but we did it for years without making a cent, literally without making a cent. And it never bothered me. In fact, I never even thought that I would be able to pay myself anything. And then one day, obviously, it did happen. And then from then I've been able to pay myself, but it's only because I never gave up. And I think that if I was expecting a paycheck or I was expecting a lot of sales, I would have given up very quickly. So I tried to set goals for myself that weren't financial. How many followers, even though people say, you shouldn't judge how many followers you've got, but still, whatever works for you.
Yes.
If it's building Instagram, building Facebook, building TikTok, whatever it is, just try and find goals and KPIs for yourself that aren't financial. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too, especially when you first begin any business. If you're expecting results straight away, more than likely you're going to be disappointed and give up before you really even had a chance to get into the groove, get to know your style of growing that business and seeing where it can actually take you. So it's going to take more than a few days or a few weeks to build up the business of your dreams, it can take years. And that's all part of the journey. And by enjoying the journey, not just the destination, it can be worthwhile, and it is worthwhile. Definitely.
Absolutely.
So what's one lesson your job has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
Yeah, that you can't please everyone, I think is really a big one. It is really hard. And even now that we get, 50 plus orders a day, when we get a complaint or when we let someone down, and look, it happens because we deal with a lot of people and we aren't for everyone, or we might have an off day, or we might miss an email. Every single time that hurts, and every single time I lose my appetite. So it doesn't matter how big you get or how successful, it will always be hard. So I think also just to learn to ground yourself, and if you do have a bad day or someone's unhappy, just try and keep focused on what you've achieved. And I've got on my fridge, I've got a bunch of letters from different people, a couple of them from really big, like huge businesses that we've worked for, and then others from some of the smaller ones. But I see it every day, and it really grounds me that even if, things aren't really going great and we've had a few real shockers, we can keep ourselves grounded in knowing that 99% of people, are happy.
Yeah, and love what you do.
Yeah. Because it can be hard. It can be hard when you're on the inside to feel that and to remember that, because sometimes the bad always overtakes the good. And it's just about sort of retraining your brain and your thinking.
Yes, absolutely. And trying to get a hold of your mindset in life is a challenge, but particularly in business. So being able to put in strategies like having beautiful letters on your fridge, or having, like a notepad full of kind words that someone has said to you, like it just helps. Yeah, it keeps you grounded and it keeps you motivated when things get tough.
Yeah.
Speaking of, how do you stay motivated?
Yeah, look, 2022, believe it or not, has been a shocker, like an absolute shocker of a year for us, for a lot of reasons, personally, professionally. People in our team have had personal issue, like literally everything that can go wrong has gone wrong this year. And I think a lot of it is after, 2 years of spiraling out of control, of our business going absolutely crazy. We're now sort of at the other side. It's kind of the come down everyone's feeling after COVID. And we obviously, we had a few product issues this year as well that were so mind-boggling because we didn't understand them. We didn't know why. We're pretty sure it was basically what happened is one of our main vinyls just stopped working. Literally, we've used it for 5+ years, and all of a sudden we were getting people say to us, they're not sticking to the product. And no one could help us. Our suppliers were like, there's nothing that's changed. And obviously something in the production changed due to COVID, whether it was like raw material shortages or changes in the process. We don't know. It is fixed now. Don't worry, guys. But it was a huge challenge for us and very expensive. But to be honest, like going through that, the one thing that came out of it is we have the most amazing support network. Our customers, I don't think, maybe we got one complaint, but we actually didn't get complaints. We got people emailing us saying, we just wanted to let you know. This has happened. How can we move forward? And of course, we fixed it. But we, I don't know, we felt the love so much that I think that if it wasn't for that, I really would have broken a few times, because it was just the most challenging thing I've ever had to go through. And the fact that people knew that it wasn't us and it wasn't our fault, that really meant a lot to us, and it really kept us going.
Yeah, I can only imagine how challenging that would have been on a personal and a professional level to keep trying, to keep moving forward, because you've still got a family to support, you've still got goals you want to achieve, but to work through such a huge challenge is is commendable. So well done.
survived it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, especially coming off the back of 2020 and just COVID in general, like you sort of think we've already been knocked down how many times, what else is coming your way? But to get through that, you have to think that only positive things are coming, at least for a long while. You're on the up now. So, So what would you say is your favorite productivity hack?
Two things. I outsource everything that doesn't give me joy in my business. And we've seen business coaches before, and they're like, what, you shouldn't be working in the business. You should be working on the business. And I'm like, no, but I actually get my joy from working in the business. So I like working most days. I like working in customer service. I like, writing the invoices. I like being that very first point of call. So for me, I actually outsource the working on the business, all of the marketing, the social media, the strategy. I outsource that. So even though you think that it should be the opposite, I don't think there's any rules. I think you should really do the part of the business that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to work hard at it. You're not going to put everything into it. So that's my first thing. And then secondly, I compartmentalize my tasks a lot. So I sort of do one thing at a time. I'll clear all the emails first, and then I'll go in and then I'll look at our project management software, and then I'll clear all the tasks from there. And then I might go and look at what the girls are doing in marketing. So I try not to sort of do everything at once.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really have an order, but I definitely try and focus on one thing at a time.
I think that's probably the best thing for your brain as well, rather than feeling scattered and overwhelmed.
When I've got two screaming kids, running around as well, I've really got to be strict about how I use my brain power.
Yeah, definitely. How do you sort of manage your day-to-day when you do have two young children?
It's really, 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 really hard.
Yeah.
I spend most of my time being completely overwhelmed. And often when my girls are messaging me, I'm like, I just can't answer right now. Let me just finish what I'm doing and I'll come back to you. But I think I just do it because I do love it. And I do, as I said, I do get a lot of joy out of it. And running the business with, 15 plus staff, it's really not the easiest thing in the world, especially with, two kids and a baby. But, us women, we're made out of, something strong. I don't know what it is, but we do it. And a lot of my customers are in the same position, and they have kids, or it might not be kids, but they might have another full-time job. So yeah, a lot of us sort of wear a few hats throughout the day.
Yes, definitely. Multitasking is a skill that a lot of us women have, whether we want to use it or not. But being able to prioritize what you want to achieve and having those long-term goals is a really great way to stay motivated when things get tough, or if you feel like, I don't know if this is working, but having those goals and working towards them.
I find having goals is everything. And if I don't have a goal, then I get really lost. So
yeah, definitely. It helps to have something to look forward to and something to focus on in the future.
Yeah.
Are there any resources that helped you sort of get to where you are today, like any books or podcasts or software?
Not so much, but I would definitely say at the business groups on Facebook, especially back when I started, it's sort of all there really was. There are a few amazing personalities who have come out of that, like Kate Toon, who, whether people have heard of or not, she does a lot of SEO courses. And then there's Gabby, who I'll send you her link. She has a marketing for women group.
Oh, amazing.
So she talks a lot about, she's also our digital marketer. So she works in our team, but she has an amazing business as well, helping small businesses, with things like email marketing, Google Ads. Trying to think, as I said, Canva as well. Canva isn't something that I use, but I know that a lot of people really use it, especially for social media and their websites. So there really are a lot of tools out there these days, and like the groups are amazing because you just see so much and so many cool ideas.
Yeah, definitely. And you find that most people are willing to share their advice, which is so invaluable to helping your own growth as well, not just candle making, but also just general business knowledge as well.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got 3 more questions for you, and these are the questions that I'm planning to ask all my podcast guests. So number 1, what is your favorite candle fragrance?
I've got 2, and neither of them are that popular, and I've never understood why because they're incredible. So the first one's African Violet, which I think is from Aroma. Hopefully they still sell it. It is the best. And when I was a candle maker, actually, I didn't tell anyone about this fragrance because I'm like, it's mine. It's so good. And then there's also Persimmon and White Lily, which has a name that makes people not want to try it. But I think the reason, like, I love it and I've loved it for years. It smells like, when we were kids and you could get those little like lip gloss packs that had the little apple and do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The little it smells like that.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
For some reason, it just takes me back. So, yeah, I love it.
I love that. I love how different scents can invoke memories and really sort of you can connect into to experiences that you've had in the past. All right, so number 2 question. What do you love about candles?
Exactly what you just said. You smell something, and even if it's a smell that you don't like, it reminds you of it reminds you of someone, or it reminds you of a time in your life. I love that. And lastly, what is one piece of advice for new candle makers that you'd give at the start of their journey? Yeah, look, it's such a cliche that the candle market's saturated, and it is. Like, it is. There's no getting out of the fact that there are a lot of candle makers. But the one thing about a saturated market is that everyone knows what a candle is. You don't need to spend your time trying to convince people to buy candles. They know what it is. They know what it does. And that's the hardest part sometimes, convincing someone to buy a product that you sell. Instead, all you have to do is convince people why they want to buy your product. So the hard part's already done. By having a saturated market, it means that you can stand out from the crowd because there are all these other businesses out there, and you can do something a little bit different. And there's heaps of businesses doing really cool things. So I think stop thinking, there's other candle makers out there, therefore I can't make it. It's the opposite, really. The more there are, the more chances you have of doing well with your business.
Absolutely, especially when you niche down and find a unique spot in the market. There's always going to be someone that, just say you make candles that are candles that are pet friendly, or candles that are different shapes or colors or styles or fragrances. There's so many different combinations that you can make. It's really only limited by your own creativity, which is one of the benefits of getting
and that's like, it goes back to why branding is so important, and having a good quality label is so important. But then there's heaps of other things you can do. You can change your candle fragrance names so they are something a little bit unique to your business. You can really do anything that you want to do. So just use that to your advantage.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I'm very appreciative of your time. Where can listeners find you online?
So online, our website is www.longstoryshortdesign.com.au, or our Instagram handle is longstoryshortprints. They're probably the 2 main places that we do have a group as well, actually, that I will send you a link to.
Yeah, perfect. I'll pop it in the show notes.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to place an order, or you just want to chat to us about some ideas, definitely send us an email, or you can use the quote form on our website.
Perfect. Lovely. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening today. I hope this episode added value to your candle making journey. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout today's episode. And if you would like to submit a question, send me a DM on Instagram @Candle Business Coach. And if you haven't already, download your free copy of my guide, 5 Simple Steps to Start Your Candle Journey. It contains tips and advice before you make your first candle, and details are in the show notes. Lastly, please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes, and thanks again for listening. Have a beautiful day.